All right, so to move on to the Washington Redskins, this is the team which, even though they were not in last place in the division last year, I think the Redskins probably, for the average person out there, have the most questions that need to be answered.
Well, and they're a team that I don't remember any of their wins. You know, they went 7-9, but I don't remember any of those 7 wins. I don't think any of them were like big. This is going to piss off Redskins fans, and we're not even a minute into the video. But
to be fair, if you're the Giants, it's easy to remember 3 wins.
Yeah,
you know, there you go. Now the Redskins fans can be happy.
Well, and even also like the Giants had that game against the Chiefs, where what's his face, Marcus, Marcus Peters just like throwing his shoe into the crowd. Like that was memorable. I don't remember anything from the Redskins besides them getting stomped on Thanksgiving Day. Yeah.
Well, bye, Redskins fans. But anyways, to talk about the Washington Redskins, the reason why I say there's a lot of people have a lot of questions on them let me first get to what I think is a big concern, and then we'll move over into some positive things. But a lot of their players have had surgery in the offseason. Guys like Trent Williams, Jordan Reed, Morgan Moses, Stacey McGee. They had a lot of players that were injured last year, so much that they required some type of surgery. And that, I think, for a lot of people, is bringing up hopefully these guys come back, because those are some important people there too. But the Washington Redskins did actually do some really good things free agency with getting Pernell McPhee. I mean, we're in Chicago. We love that, obviously. Paul Richardson. They traded for Alex Smith, which is really what the big story is. They, of course, in the draft, they get guys like Daron Payne, which we love Daron Payne on this show. I'm assuming that you also love Daron Payne.
He's a good, I like the pick. And one thing I do want to correct myself, they actually won on Thanksgiving. That's how memorable it was. They beat the Giants. I don't even remember it.
All right, well, that's fantastic.
The next week, they got stopped by Dallas, though, 38-14. But yeah, I like Daron Payne. I think he's a guy that's going to make. I mean, it was him and good old the guy that got drafted from Washington.
Vita Vea.
Yeah, Vita Vea. He was second defensive tackle in my mind, but I thought he was a really good addition to this Redskins team. I thought they were either going to go Vita Vea or they were going to go Daron Payne. I still like the fit there, and especially that second-round pick, getting Darius Geis. It's just adding to that offense. And the biggest thing that I'm questioning is how this offense is going to look, because they weren't awful last year. They weren't spectacular.
But it's going to be completely different.
Yeah, and Kirk Cousins didn't have a lot of help last year because Doxson wasn't consistently healthy, but they now added a healthy Doxson, hopefully. They got Paul Richardson from Seattle. They brought in Brian Quick, so they're going to have 4 guys that they're going to look at in Doxson, Crowder, Richardson, and Quick on the outside. And then the biggest question for them offensively is going to be, can Jordan Reed stay healthy? Because we know what Alex Smith can do. He's not going to be a super different quarterback, and we know that they have some decent running backs. Rob Kelly is pretty good when he is healthy. Darius Geis, clearly. Chris Thompson was fantastic last year, especially coming out of the backfield. Samaje Perine has been even decent. So they have the running backs. They have the wide receivers on the outside if they can stay healthy. The biggest thing is, will they have that game changer in Jordan Reed, which we've seen him to be, but how much is he going to be healthy? How much has the injury affected him? And this offense, if they're able to stay healthy, could be a really interesting offense this year, and maybe very similar to that Chiefs offense that we saw last year.
Yeah, and that's the thing they need, because you look at this team and they're thin at wide receiver. This is a team that I think in order for them to be successful, they have to run the ball very well, and Jordan Reed is going to need to be healthy, because, I mean, Jordan Reed, for anybody who's had him on fantasy, they know he's that guy who one week he wins you the game. The next week, he gets nothing for you. Yeah. And part of that, of course, is because of injury, but they need desperately for nothing to go wrong on the receiving area.
Well, and the reason I compare him to the Chiefs last year is because, I mean, outside of Tyreek Hill, they didn't really have a game changer on the outside from that wide receiver position, but we've seen Jamison Crowder be a really decent and consistent performer out on the field for the Redskins, and I think he's going to continue to do that. Paul Richardson's an interesting guy because he's a pretty decent deep threat, and John Doxson was a first-round pick, and he hasn't been consistently healthy, and if he is able to be healthy, I mean, people loved him coming out of TCU back in 2016, so I think they have 3 quality wide receivers. I think, obviously if one of those guys goes down, then it's going to be a big thing. Maybe they even go and get Des Bryant and add him to the team. I think that's very unlikely.
Tennessee Titans apparently is what they're saying.
Oh, really?
Is that they're kind of leading as a favorite at the moment. But these are all rumors.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. But, I mean, again, if they feel like maybe even go get T.O. I don't know. Maybe they
that'd be fun.
I think they feel, he'd be 3 away from finishing out the NFC East because he'd need to hit the Giants too. But I think it'd be, I think this wide receiving core at least will be interesting because I do like Paul Richardson. He was a pretty decent performer for Russell Wilson. Now he had Russell Wilson as his quarterback, but Alex Smith isn't too far off. Not as great of a thrower, not as great as a leader, but he's still pretty damn good. And I think Jameson again is consistent enough. So I think this offense again, if they're able to be healthy, they have a really good offensive line. I mean, Brandon Scherf's fantastic. Trent Williams clearly fantastic. So I think that this is going to be a team that will be able to protect Alex Smith and be very similar to that Chiefs offense. Especially even let's look at the rookie running back we saw coming in last year. They had an explosive back. Darius Geis might be that guy because even when Leonard Fournette was out, when they were both at LSU, Darius Geis picked up and it sometimes even looked better than Leonard Fournette. So if Geis is able to come in and be that game-changing playmaker, it's going to be interesting to see how this Redskins offense ends up working because they might have the second best offense in the NFC East. I won't put them above the Eagles, especially with Carson Wentz when healthy, but this is going to be a really interesting offense with Jay Gruden and the weapons he does have.
It's going to be very interesting with the running back group because, Darius Geis was actually my second favorite running back in the draft. So to have him fall so much where the Redskins can trade down and still get him, trade down, everybody, that is a fantastic move right there. It's just that the room is a little crowded. Then we've already had this discussion on the onside kick about Darius Geisen. Is he the wide receiver, or I'm sorry, the running back number one, or is it going to be running back by committee? I don't think it can be a running back by committee. I think he should be able to take the hammer and just run with it and lead this running back group because they've got three guys who are all good, but in my eyes, don't really stand that much apart from each other. With maybe P. Ryan being an exception. In my eyes, from what I've seen from him before.
See, that's the thing is I think Thompson's the one that separates himself because of his ability to catch out of the backfield.
That's actually a good point, though.
So I think the one thing, though, is let's look at last year with the Saints having Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. The reason why Mark Ingram started and was their first go-to back was because he's consistently been there and he was a first-round pick for them not too long ago. And we look at this Redskins team, Rob Kelly's been injured consistently. He's not a guy that you've been able to rely on, especially the last year, because he's been out. He hasn't been healthy. Chris Thompson, he's great out of the backfield, but again, he's been injured. P. Ryan was their third back behind those two guys and didn't start, unless those two guys were banged up. So I look at Darius Geis. He's young. He's got energy. Why not start him? I mean, if he fails, then just go to the other three running backs. But this is a guy that he's gonna, not have lingering health concerns. He's not a guy that at least has taken NFL hits before, so his body's gonna be fresh. And this is a guy that wants to prove himself. He seems like a really competitive kid. Most guys in the NFL are, but he seems like a guy that wants to really make a mark. I don't think this is a Saints situation where, you have to deal with Mark Ingram. I think it's more of a Chiefs situation even last year, again, where, coming in, able to win the starting running back job and able to take over.
Yeah, and Kareem Hunt was
I couldn't think of his name, so thank you for saying it.
Oh, you're welcome. Kareem Hunt that was a huge addition to move that team forward.
I think it's more of a Kareem Hunt situation than it is a Kamara situation.
And I think they need it. They need that. They need someone to lead because this running offense, I mean, this is one of the worst rushing yards per game team out there.
Yeah.
And you just look at their guys and there's kind of a reason why, like I said, these are the guys who are your switch them out type of guys. These are your running back by committee kind of people because they had a great passing attack. But the fact is it's going to be very different this year. And even though they like everything they've seen of Alex Smith, they like what they've seen for Darius Geis, they're liking what they have. The thing that the Washington Redskins really, in my eyes, need is they need to be healthy, but this defense, I think, is going to need to step up a lot as well. And it's similar to what we've talked about with the New York Giants is the fact that they are going against difficult teams, of course. And with an Alex Smith kind of offense here, which is the weapons around him, I think are a step back from what he had in Kansas City. Not a huge step back, but it is a step back. They're going to face good teams. Alex Smith can be the guy, we saw it last year, who can kind of stall a little bit and have trouble and get off the field quickly. This defense is going to need all the help they can get. I mean, that's why their first round pick is a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
That's why they get a guy like Pernell McPhee. They know that they need that help because they're going to be playing guys, like Drew Brees, like Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton, everybody in their division who are good quarterbacks. They have a lot of tough quarterbacks to go up against. They need to be able to get to them. They need to not let teams throw all over them, which the Washington Redskins in the past have been in shootouts because that defense has been a step behind the offense.
Yeah. And then I think one thing, too, is going back to the rushing attack that you mentioned, was that they were consistently in close games or they were behind. So they needed to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And I think maybe if they're able to find a balance between that offense and defense, they're going to be able to at least set up their offense, be able to throw out a rushing attack that's going to be implementing all four backs. And even last year, they only had 2 games last year where they had a 100-yard rusher, and both of that was Pirine. And back-to-back games where he had 117, then 100 on the dot. But this defense, again, I think they have a lot of playmakers. And the biggest thing for them, I don't think is going to be at least pressuring the quarterback, because Ryan Kerrigan has proven that he's a guy that can pressure the quarterback. Zach Brown, the free agent they got from Buffalo, proved last year and in the past couple of years that he's being able to pressure the quarterback. Deron Payne is more of a run stopper, but he's a guy that's really physical.
He's got to just at least eat up
the lane.
Yeah.
Jonathan Allen last year was one of the top prospects until it came out about his injuries. If he's healthy, he wasn't 100% healthy last year. If he's healthy, he can be a guy that really pressures on the outside. And even Mason Foster's pretty decent. We talk about Pernell McPhee. Pernell McPhee, when he's healthy, he's a guy that can get you 7 to 8 sacks. So I'm not really worried about the at least attack on the quarterbacks. It's going to be, can the guys on the outside make enough plays? Can Orlando Scandrick, who they brought in from Dallas, make enough plays on the outside edge? We know Josh Norman could be a shutdown quarterback. Can he be able to take that ball and be a Marcus Peters and be able to get 6, 7 interceptions, be able to bring the ball the other way? Because the biggest thing when the Chiefs were having success, they were winning the turnovers battles. They had the best turnover differential in the NFL, especially the year before. So if they're able to do that, they're able to pressure the quarterback like Kansas City was, and then be able to at least get some turnovers and be able to put the ball the other way and get that offense more opportunities. That's how Washington's going to have the biggest success. And I know I keep comparing him to the Chiefs, but I think it's very similar, because you look at the head coach, Andy Reid, again, was an offensive guy. Same with Jay Gruden. They have the quarterback in Alex Smith. I think this is a team that can really mimic not last year's Chiefs. Well, yeah, maybe a little bit of last year's Chiefs, but more of the Chiefs from 2017 that had a lot of success. I think that's going to be the team that they kind of mold after. And this is going to be a team that, if they're able to, again, be in games where they're putting the pressure on the other team, not be playing from behind, can be a team that can hold leads because of their defense and be able to run the clock out with their 4 backs, with Alex Smith, who can extend plays with his legs and be able to throw short yardage to Jamison Crowder and to this guy. So with their defense, I think it's really looking at that secondary and how Josh Norman and their safeties and other corners can step up and get force turnovers for their team.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely going to help out for sure. What it comes down to, and certain players that you mentioned are some of these guys, the Washington Redskins, if they stay healthy, that's just going to be a tremendous advantage to them. I don't think there were very many teams out there that were more injured than the Washington Redskins were last year. They had so many injuries.
Yeah.
Outside of our Chicago Bears here, they were so badly injured and depleted everywhere. And they need that to kind of be addressed. And it's funny because we're talking about some of the additions, and a few of these additions are people were like, but if that guy stays healthy too, so that's always the dangerous part. I mean, there's reasons why other teams didn't keep that type of player. So they definitely need that for sure. But when it comes to the on paper, they've got a lot that they need to have an offense that will move and score and be successful. They've got a defense that will hold on its own well enough. And really what they need, I think that the thing that the Washington Redskins might miss out on, and hopefully Alex Smith can get back in touch with that. Think back to last year's Alex Smith at the very beginning when he was throwing all over everybody. Nobody could stop Alex Smith. I think if the Washington Redskins can get that, and there's a reason why they go and they grab themselves a deep threat, because they need to have that as well. If they're going to just be this dink and dunk kind of team moving forward, that's not going to be enough to keep up with a lot of these other teams they're going to face. So they are going to need some of that. And it's interesting because Cousins was the guy who says, I'm going deep. Yep. That's what he likes to do. Alex Smith is not that guy, even though he has shown that he can do it in the past. But he is not the guy who's going to do that. He is a smart, methodical type of passer. There's a reason why he has not had more than double-digit interceptions since, 2010? it's been a really long time since he's had double-digit interceptions. So that's very, very valuable in that case to be smart. But I think they're going to need a little bit with like Richardson and Smith's connection to really build so they can have that deep threat as well.
The thing that I look at with the Redskins is I think they have a fairly decent amount of depth. We talked about the running backs, we talked about the wide receivers, but it's really about who's going to separate themselves as that next time, that next level playmaker. Is it going to be Geis? Is Jordan Reed going to be consistently healthy and be a top 5 tight end?
A lot of people, of course,
league?
are going to want it to be Doxson because he hasn't proved it to the NFL just yet.
And he still has plenty of time to prove it. I mean, if this needs to be the season where he does prove it. We're not saying that he doesn't have that ability, but again, there are question marks with his health, and when he is on the field, he hasn't been extremely dynamic. And even on the defensive end, I mean, Ryan Kerrigan's been good, but he's getting older. Josh Norman has been fine, but he isn't a guy that, again, is like Darrelle Revis back in his prime.
He hasn't quite been that Carolina stud that he was before he got traded.
Good, and he's worth the contract, and we know he's going to put up his best fight against OBJ, going up against the Giants. But I don't think they have. I think they need a guy to really separate himself and kind of identify this defense and give them a major identity, because Ryan Kerrigan's been there for the longest. You probably think he's the leader on this defense, but is he going to be able to be a consistent performer? Because even himself, he's been dealing with health problems throughout his career. So I think the thing is they have a lot of depth, both offensively and defensively, but I don't think they have a stud. I don't think they have a star, and that's even looking at the quarterback as well. Alex Smith is pretty much the middle of the pack quarterback in my eyes. He's a guy that kind of blends into the crowd. This is something that I've always said. I mean, I'm not trying to bash Alex Smith. He's a good quarterback, but he's not a guy that's separating himself like Peyton was or Brady was. He's not a guy that really encapsulates the media like a Russell Wilson can or a Deshaun Watson was able to. Alex Smith will get the job done, but I don't think he's a star in his own right. And looking at this at least schedule, it kind of gets screwed because you get week 4 bye week. You're getting absolutely screwed by that. And if you're trying to stay healthy, that's not going to really be to your benefit when you're playing from week 5 to week 17 with no break at all.
And it's going to be an interesting start right before that bye week as well. I mean,
I like their first 3 games. I think they can I think they could possibly go 3-0.
Interesting, even against the Packers.
Well, they have the Packers at home. So, and this is a Packers team with no rushing attack. I'm not. I don't think, did they pick up a dynamic running back? Did I forget anything? I mean, this is still the Packers that has, yes, Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers still coming off an injury. And we'll see how they can really separate themselves with those outside attacks. Yes, they got Jimmy Graham, but Jimmy Graham, even in Seattle, wasn't the same Jimmy Graham. And they have Devontae Adams, but how will Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers hook up? And if you're able to shut Devontae Adams down with Josh Norman, who else is going to step up in that wide receiving core for the Packers? And that defense, I don't really think...
Yeah, the Packers' defense has never been anything exciting.
With Alex Smith, a guy that's not going to make too many mistakes and not give the ball back to Aaron Rodgers, I think it's a very winnable game, especially being at FedEx Field. And then you look at even week 2, Indianapolis might be able to throw the ball question mark, but it's Andrew Luck early in the season. So will Indianapolis be able to get their offense, get their quarterback, get their running back? It's a lot of questions for Indianapolis right away, week 2, to go up against a team in Washington that might not be, great, might never be the best team in the NFL, but will be consistently good week in and week out. I think they'll always be in a position to win, even with that tough schedule, especially from week 5 to week 17. It might be a team, though, again, that goes 7-9, 8-8, because they're not a great team. They're really good to, consistent team. And even Arizona, too. I mean, they're going up against Sad Bradford, or possibly even a rookie in Josh Rosen in his first game. So I think it's going to be a thing where, that might be the toughest game for them, that Arizona game, especially being at Arizona. But I think they're consistent enough where Arizona is more of a flashier team. They have Larry Fitzgerald, who's one of the most consistent players in the NFL, but you're also getting David Johnson if he's even healthy by that point. You're getting Sam Bradford, who we know is never healthy. Josh Rosen might be starting in his first game. A defense without Tyrann Mathieu. A new head coach. I think that's something where the Redskins have a really nice storm brewing, at least for the first 3 weeks, to at least get off to possibly a 3-0 or even a 2-1 start, which would be really beneficial to this team.
Yeah, I for the sake of the Washington Redskins, I hope they can do it. The Cardinals, I think for sure that's their easiest. I actually think it's their easiest matchup, even though it is away. Even though people probably, the Andrew Luck thing is what determines whether the Colts are the easiest one or not, in my eyes, just because of Andrew Luck's out there and he's a motivated Andrew Luck. I mean, he's scary when you look at pictures of him right now in shorts because he looks like a linebacker. But, if he's out there and he's motivated and he wants to throw on everybody, he might just be able to do it. And, of course, Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers in weeks 4 and 3, I said in the wrong order. Those are going to be tough too. But the Washington Redskins fall into the same difficult trap that every single one of these teams are going to fall into. And we're going to say it probably every single time. The NFC East is very difficult, and the NFC East schedule in general is going to be difficult. So they are a team that I could easily see being a good team this year, but exactly what you're saying could fall into that 7-9 to just 9-7 window of in the middle because it's just difficult.
And the biggest thing for them is how will they go up against the NFC East, because outside of their division, they were pretty damn good. 1-5 against the NFC East last year. They lost both games to Philly fairly badly, both by 10 plus points. Even by Dallas, they got smoked by Dallas even bigger, 33-19, and then 38-14. And you were able to beat the Giants once on Thanksgiving. Again, sorry for fucking that up. On Thanksgiving by 10 points, but then you went back and lost to them by 8 in the last game of the season. So it's a game where it's a thing where if you're able to go 3-3 in the division, that might mean you're a 9-win team this year. You might mean you're a 10-win team this year, but also you're going up against a much harder schedule this year. You're not going to be playing Denver. You're not going to be playing a weaker San Francisco team without Jimmy Garoppolo. You're not going to be playing an Oakland team that really lost its identity from the year prior. So I think this is a schedule that, again, they had a very early bye week last year and were able to deal with it, a week 5 bye week. But if we're talking about injuries, if we're talking about staying consistently healthy, if we're trying to say starting off and trying to find a star, it's going to be tough with having a week 4 bye week, then going up against New Orleans, Carolina, Dallas, New York, Atlanta, and then you finally kind of get a break with Tampa Bay, but even then picks right back up with a tough defense with Houston, then back to Dallas, Philly, New York, and then another tough defense with Jacksonville and a playoff team last year in Tennessee and then Philadelphia. It's just going to be a consistent go for the Redskins.
And the hard thing the Redskins are going to have, if this is a team that is, let's say they're in maybe like 6-8 type of territory or whatever it might be in week like 14, week 15, they're then going up against division opponents, a lot of division opponents, the Super Bowl champion Eagles twice in their last 6 games here, the Jaguars, the Titans, who will probably be competing for a playoff spot.
And those are at Jacksonville and Tennessee.
Yeah, that's very true as well. So this last-minute race for the wild card is going to be very difficult if the Washington Redskins are in it still. Yeah. They could easily be that team that falls out because they're playing a lot of difficult teams. It's just the unfortunate, draw of your schedule. But it's going to hurt the Washington Redskins more so than a lot of other teams.
In those last 6 games too, 4 of the 6 are away from FedEx Field, and 4 of the 6 are against playoff teams. Philadelphia twice, and then Jacksonville and Tennessee. So I mean, like you said, it's a bad luck of the draw, and when you're trying to push for the playoffs, it's going to be a pain in the ass. So it's really winning. It's probably the easiest thing to say, but you got to win at home and you got to win against your division, or at least go 500 against your division.
You can't do what you did last year, that's for sure.
No, and this is a team that against Carolina, I might even favor them against Carolina because that Cam offense, Cam was good last year. Cam's been an MVP before, but Cam isn't consistency. He isn't Alex Smith. Yeah. He can be a guy that can be a top 10 quarterback and be extremely flashy while doing it, or he can look just completely lost out there on the field. And this Carolina has a really good at least defense, but again, going into FedEx Field that we know might be even sloppy at some point of the season, could be a thing where they are able to upset the Carolina Panthers. And then we're looking at it, if they beat Arizona, Indianapolis, and Green Bay, they can be 4-1 to start the season. You're already halfway to going 8-8, even with the hellacious schedule. So it's a Redskins team that I think has a shot every single week, but they might not be favored every single week, especially going up against the Atlantas, the Philadelphia, Jacksonville, Tennessees of the NFL. But I think it's going to be consistent. I don't think you're going to be seeing blowouts every single week. I think you're going to see 10-point losses to even 3-point losses, or even 7-point wins, 3-point wins. I think this is a team that can be consistently in it. It's just, can they win enough games?
Yeah. Can they win enough games? Can they stay healthy? And really, is the run game going to be as good as people expect? Those are the main questions. But you guys can let us know down below what you think the answers are to those questions. How's Alex Smith going to be for the Washington Redskins? What's the defense going to look like? What's the running back situation going to look like? Let us know down below.